This is Travis Wayne Goodsell, and it's really bugging me about not getting around to doing a real church history video for the LDS church. And so I guess I'll attempt it. It's going to be very, very long, but I'm going to go over everything starting from the time of the Smith family in Vermont, and after they get married. So the first church that they go to while in Vermont. Well, second church. And we'll cover that period first. In dealing with church history, I would, of necessity, have to go back to Adam in order to trace everybody as to why and what happened that led to the events that I'm wanting to cover. And obviously I can't do that. So I have to start from somewhere, and that's where I've chosen to start. Because Smith Sr. Plays an important role, and the events that occur there in Vermont also play an important part of the rise of church history. And so their wedding and their family situations and her rich dowry are secondary of importance in regards to church history. So it's Joseph Smith that well, yeah, you'll see as I go along. In dealing with church history, if you're not paying attention to any of my other videos and you're here for the first time, we need to be sound. We need to gather the evidence and then develop a theory for what happened. A theory is not an opinion. A theory is not even a guess. A theory is a replicable set of circumstances based on the evidence obtained. And with Christianity trying to destroy the scientific process, Mormons are fully embracing that, and I will not be doing that. And so you need to understand, we need to go to primary source documentations, if there are any. If there aren't any, then we utilize circumstantial or secondary source materials. But we recognize that they are circumstantial and secondary when we plug it into our theory equation. So for example, we'll be talking about the New Israelites and how they practiced what was called spiritual wifery. You guys know it as polygamy. And so we would need to establish that Joseph Smith Sr. participated in spiritual wifery. There is no documentation for such. There are no children that are attributed to Joseph Smith Sr. of other wives, and so we have to then look at the full context to establish whether or not Joseph Smith Sr. actually practiced it. And when we get to the part about the Book of Mormon and the establishment of the church with the Doctrine and Covenants in 1835, we start to get a picture that no, he didn't. And we'll cover that eventually. I'm going to try to keep them to around 15 minutes, and thus it's going to be even longer. I'm going to have a special playlist set aside so that you can refer to the playlist, and we'll add to it as I get around to them. They won't be transferred to my website. My website will no longer be doing LDS stuff unless, of course, Nelson decides to do something that destroys the nation or the world as a news story. And so this is just going to be exclusive for YouTube. If you want to download, there are downloadable sites to do that, and I'm okay with you guys downloading any of my material. Just be cautious, because there's lots of advertising on them, and there's occasional people who try to download viruses and malware to your computers for using their site, which seems strange. So the only thing I can figure is that they're hackers that get into those sites to destroy other people's computers. Yeah. I'm not wanting to make them available on my website, but if there's a great demand, maybe I will provide a category for that product for a free download. I'm not going to do a book like I'm doing with the Egyptian lessons, which I haven't gotten around to like I thought I was. I got to the first 2 introductory lessons and haven't continued them since. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm wanting to get to, obviously. And so I wasn't planning on getting around to this anytime soon, because YouTube doesn't care about my knowledge, and they'd rather go to other sources that are unreliable for or against the church. And so yeah, it's most likely because YouTube is shadow banning me, because of what I've tried to test to find out what was the case. Alright, so that's the process that I'll be doing, is going to primary source materials. I'm going to have to put them in on Word so that I can then link them for you on the video, I guess. Yeah. So that's how we're going to proceed, and I will demonstrate how to actually do research into the real church history. And so if you're Mormon, I hope you understand it's going to be different than what you thought. Don't come to here hoping that I'm going to prove once and for all that the church is true. If you've not been paying attention to my other videos, you know that Brigham had no authority, and his branch is not true. And we're going to do an actual real history, void of any bias, pro or against the church. And I will show to you that when you establish the facts based upon the evidence, then you are justified in having feelings one way or another. And we'll go from there. Obviously, this is not church sponsored. they do not agree with anything that I will be coming up with or researching and presenting to you, because they've presented their own version and they're sticking to it, even though critics and other history researchers say no, no. So yeah, we need to present a real church history for not just Mormons, but for those who aren't Mormon, who are critical of the Mormon Church because of what the abuses the church has been doing to people since Brigham Young. And when I refer to since Brigham Young, I mean since Brigham Young joined. Everything was going fine until Brigham Young. But yeah, I already know a lot of this, and so I'll share it with you guys as we go along, step by step, little by little. All right, I think that's all I need to cover for this introduction. I have an hour-long video as a reply to a reply of a reply I gave. It's helping to illustrate from a person's own comments about how to recognize and expose insincere people who have ulterior motives in mind, who are not wanting to ask a simple question, who in reality don't care and disagree and are here for the purpose of deceiving and trying to convert me to their way of thinking and belief. So yeah, this is not what I will be doing with you guys with my videos here. We will be going over the evidence and establishing the actual church history based on the evidence. Now, if there's none available, like I said, we'll look at the surrounding information to piece together a theory for what was to happen. And another example is Smith Sr. became a Freemason in Palmyra, and yet there's indications that he was familiar with Freemasonry before then. There's no record of him ever joining Freemasonry as a member prior to Palmyra, except that there's other indicators of this, and I will point them out also as we go along. All right, so let's get it cracking. So it's gonna take a while before I well, no, actually, well, yeah, I gotta save the other video. So once I finish saving, then I can work on this one, and it'll probably beat the other one. So, all right, let's see how it goes.